Hey docs, it's Monday. That means it's Set the Intention Mondays with Dr. Stephanie Wellington. That's me. Why Mondays? Because Monday is the day when we ramp up after scaling back in our clinical settings. There are patients to see, labs to follow up on, consults to call, and maybe even discharges of patients that you just met. And that's enough to send any physician thinking about an exit strategy. But it doesn't have to be this way because each and every Monday, we're going to come together and we're going to set the intention for what you desire for your work day and your work week. Today, I want to talk about leadership. Have you ever gone to your leadership teams, voiced a concern or a situation, and walked away feeling like you hadn't been heard, like you were dismissed, like your leadership was steadfast in the response that they had for you, and there was nothing that you could say or do that would change it? Well, if you have, you are not alone. And that got me to thinking, if when we go to our leadership, that's the feeling that we get, what about the teams that we lead? Because you see, all physicians are leaders. From the front line to the C-suite, we lead. We lead our patients and the staff that help deliver care to our patients. And so if there are times when we're feeling dismissed, I think it's fair to say that there may be times when they are too. And that means there's an opportunity to grow. So think about a time in your experience where you felt leadership was right on point, was responsive, and you felt really good about the interaction. What made it that way? When I think about times when I've had good interaction with leadership, three things come to mind. Number one, I felt safe. I felt safe that I could come and voice my concerns, ask questions, and get some perspective. Number two, I felt that I had been heard. Although an immediate solution may not have been offered, my concerns were validated. And number three, communication was key and mutual respect that transcended the hierarchy of medicine. So, how do we make that happen? How do we make sure that as we move forward in our clinical settings, leading our teams, we ensure that they feel safe, that they're heard, and that they know that there's mutual respect when they come to us to lead their teams? So when I did an online search and I looked for characteristics of great leaders, many things came up. But some of the key characteristics that they highlighted was empathy, self-awareness, active listening, integrity, to name a few. And while leadership is a skill that can be learned and honed and refined, many of those characteristics come from doing our work. They come from personal development. They come from taking the time to know who we are, how we show up, and the energy that we hold behind the stethoscope and the white coat. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How do we learn to lead with love? Love is an acronym. The L stands for leaning in to listen and learn. The O is being open and optimistic. The V is knowing that there is a vision for our organizations and that each individual has their own vision. And the E is operating so that there's engagement and empowerment. So for the purposes of this episode and to keep this episode brief, we're going to jump right in and talk about the L, leaning in. And to do that, may I share with you a case study? Now, I work in the NICU, so needless to say, this case is coming from the NICU. As a neonatologist, I often held the role as a hospitalist and worked nights. And nights meant that I was interacting a lot with the families. And on this particular shift, as I walked in, I was informed that this parent wanted to speak to the physician. I was also given the additional information that this parent was labeled a difficult parent. And so when the time came to meet with this family, I had a decision to make. Do I walk into the meeting with the knowledge that this parent was already labeled a difficult parent? And that meant that I might walk into the meeting feeling like I needed to guard myself, or I might need to defend the actions of our team. Or do I make a different decision? Do I allow myself to just be open to whatever unfolds? And so I made the decision to enter the meeting with positive expectation, open to whatever unfolds. So now you might be asking, how do you know what's the energy that you're walking into the meeting with? And that's really the key. When you take the time to do your personal development work, when you take the time to increase the awareness of who you're being, you get to know it because of the way you feel. We've all had interactions with patients and staff and teams where we feel tight and constricted, maybe a lump in our throats or that feeling in the pit of our stomachs. And then had times when the interactions just really fed us and our energy was high. We left feeling like, yeah, we just had a really great interaction and a really great day. So that gives you an idea of how you know the energy that you're holding. So let me just jump back to the case and explain to you the power of leading with love. We had the meeting with the family, and I leaned in to listen to where were the common ground that we could connect on, right? What were the concerns that the parent had? And how can we best explain so that they have an understanding, so that moving forward during their baby's hospital course, we could continue to connect. We can continue to be in partnership with one another rather than having this parent continue on with this label of being a difficult parent and the interactions with the parent being one of source of stress and overwhelm for the staff and for the team. So said, so done. After our meeting, the energy completely shifted. It transformed the experience for the parent. And here's the thing, the baby still had the hospital course the baby was going to have. Being a premature baby, there are peaks and valleys. There's steps forward and there's steps back. And all of that still happened. But now it happened under the context of a new experience. Rather than it being one of strife, it was one where there was connection. The parent felt comfortable asking their questions, and the team felt comfortable answering them. Yes, there were tears. Yes, there might have even been words said out of frustration, but there was a new understanding. And that's the power when you lead with love. Again, the L is for leaning in to listen and learn. So now it's your opportunity to ask yourself, is there space and room for you as you lead as a physician to further develop your leadership skills? Here's a good way to know if you need to shift the energy around the way you lead. If you find yourself frustrated when your team comes to you for guidance to help troubleshoot something that's going on in your workplace, you need to infuse new energy. If you find yourself dreading the thought of having another patient added to your panel because you're already running late, it's time to infuse new energy. And if you feel drained just at the thought of having another meeting, whether it's online or in person, absolutely you need to infuse new energy into your work day and your work week. And I have a resource for you. And the investment for that resource is your name and email address. This resource is called 15 Ways to Infuse New Energy. And it's a guide that I put together, a compilation of the different daily practices and strategies that I use and my clients use over the course of over a decade to shift the energy, increase your personal awareness of who you are and the energy that you're holding so that you live and lead in medicine and in life with positive expectation, being able to connect on a totally different level with those people that you're leading. And there is value in that. So again, if you want to download your 15 ways to infuse new energy guide, and I highly recommend it, put your name and email address in the link that's provided and get access to that guide. I'm Dr. Stephanie Wellington, and I'm wishing you blessings on your journey.